All right, guys, I'm going to be showing you how to build a virtual SOC using Azure, right? So most of the time, people recommend using downloading a VM and setting it all up in VirtualBox, setting up all this physical server equipment. One, that costs money. Two, that's obsolete, right? We can set everything up in Azure and get real-time hackers trying to get into our VMs, our system, whatever it is. And ultimately, this is going to give you way more experience than if you just had a home lab with, fake alerts generated and fake threats generated, because you're getting real world attacks here. And so you're able to investigate and triage these alerts as they're happening in real time. So let's get into it. Don't want to make this video like 20 years long. We're going to be using Azure to set up this whole environment. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, if you haven't already, try Azure for free and just click that. It's going to take you to a link, and then you're going to want to create your account if you don't have it. Or if you already have like a Microsoft account, you can just sign in using that. I already have an account, so I'm going to skip this step and just sign in. All right, so I've successfully signed in. It's going to take me to the dashboard in our Azure instance. And you can see here, it's a fresh install. We have 0 credits. It's going to give us warnings here about MFA. So that's cool. So first off, if you don't have experience with Azure, just you could start clicking around and seeing what every button does, what services do. I highly recommend that. AZ900 is another one that will just get you familiar with all the services, how Azure works, everything that's possible. First things first, we're going to create a resource group. And resource groups are basically, you can think about it like, so resource groups are essentially a container, right? A container that holds all your infrastructure inside it. And the reason why we need this is because one is going to organize our infrastructure, right? So let's, for example, you say you have a prod infrastructure and you have a development infrastructure, where in development you're testing things before you push that into production. You'd want to separate that into resource groups so that they'd be billed differently because maybe you're not using development as much as you are prod and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and create one here. Just gonna be the default settings, nothing too crazy. Research group name, we'll do virtual SOC lab. We can't space it, so we'll just do this. We're gonna do East US. So these are the region is basically where your research group is gonna be hosted. So you can see here there's a bunch of different ones. Yes, Central US, East US, West US. I'm in the US, so I'm obviously going to pick US. If you're in a different country, obviously pick the one that's closest to you. What this is going to do is just reduce latency for you, since you're the one logging into that in the specific reason you chose. And that's pretty much it for this one. So we can do next. Tags. We don't really need to put tags, but tags would be useful for billing and like organization, but we don't really need that right now. So we'll just create that. Boom. All right. You can see here it's been created. Go to resource group. And so within the resource group, we're going to have a bunch of different things that we can click on: cost management, automation, monitoring, all this good stuff. All right. So before we actually create a virtual machine, we're going to want to create a virtual network. And this is how we're going to be able to configure network security, firewall, everything like that for our virtual SOC. And also how we're going to be able to connect our VMs to the internet and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and hit create here. It's fairly simple. I don't know why I keep saying my stuff is disabled, but resource group, we're going to do the resource group we just created. We'll name it SOCNet prod. And make sure it's in the same region as the resource group, so East US. Let's hit review and create. Well, we can go to the IP addresses. You can do this, but it will cost money because you'll be reserving an IP. But if not, we can just use the regular IP space they're going to assign us. We have 65,000 potential IP addresses that we can have. That's more than enough. I doubt anyone's going to make more than that. And if you do, you're absolutely insane. So review and create this. Give a second to load. All right, there we go. Yeah, everything's good. So give that a second to create. Creating. Did I just create it twice? Oh, I did. Nice, here we go. All right. We'll go to resource group. So we're in our resource group, and now we can see that our virtual network is right here. So now that that's done, we can create a virtual machine. And so I'm going to show you choose again, the same resource group we've been using. This one will you user one, IT sec or one admin. All right, so reason I'm naming it like this is because I want to make it more appealing to like the attackers that are going to be attacking the VM. So like if it's named this, our virtual network's named, SOC prod, it's going to be like more realistic to them. And so they might actually just try more than just like probing it. So we don't need redundancy. All right. Security type. I'll do standard just because we want to have less security. Image. We'll do Windows 11, not Pro. Whatever, we'll just leave it with Pro and see if we can get back to where we were at. Okay, machine name, ITsec 01 admin. We'll do this. And so when you're selecting like the image, bear in mind that if you're on if you sign up for a new account, you'll get a free 30 days for like anything. But then after that, you'll have to do up pay as you go. And so what that means is basically anything you run in here will have an associated cost if it's not included in like their free tier. And so the longer you leave the VMs or the virtual network on, the more costs you're going to incur per month. So whenever you want to boot up the lab and like let people attack to then do triage, make sure you're turning it off, or you can set up like an automation rule to turn it off at a certain time and turn it back on. That way it's always collecting like logs and attacks. Important. So like you can see here, Windows 11 with this standard configuration is going to be about 70 bucks a month. It can be more than that. It can be less depending on the time you're running the VM for. So username is going to be important. We'll do J Smith at IT Solutions, just J Smith. And password is it not? All right, there we go. Public inbound ports. Yeah, it's fine. We do want this on. We want this on. So yeah, we'll do all of them. Why not? Next, we can go to disks. I would leave everything as default. Again, here, the cheapest option is going to be this one. Also, we could do standard on our VM because we don't need premium. But we do want an SSD so it boots fast. Delete with VM. We do want that. Platform managed key is fine. All right, networking. So here we're going to want to select the virtual network that we created. Subnet. It's going to create its own subnet with these IP addresses and then a public IP. We do want that. Network security group, basic. So these are all good. We'll do this. So when we delete the VM, all this stuff will be deleted automatically and we don't have to worry about forgetting about it. We don't need any of this. We'll view and create. So I'll say I need to fix like my subscription thing, but you should be able to create now. And so what I'm gonna do is just go back and fix my subscription and then we'll create. I fixed my subscription. So if it gives you any errors, just follow what it's saying. It's gonna be pretty easy to understand what it's saying. Oh, all right, so one sec, just gotta reset all this. Tick on. All right, in management, we're not gonna need anything. So we'll just monitoring. We'll disable boot diagnostics. You can see what it is here. It's just gonna troubleshoot boot failures. Advanced, you don't really need anything here. And then we can just go ahead and create this. Okay, so right here is gonna tell you exactly how much it's gonna cost us to run this VM. You can see it's about 9 cents an hour. So bear that in mind. The more hours you leave on, you're going to be charged 9 cents. Once it lets us create this, we'll go ahead and do that. And then we'll move to the next step, which is basically connecting our VM to the public internet and then also connecting it to the log systems in Azure. And also we're going to be using Defender to like as our SIM to basically detect and alert us for things that are happening on the VM. So we'll go ahead and let this create. All right, boom, it's created. We've got our network security gate, our public IP, and this is our everything in our VM. So what we can do is go home and all our resources are going to be here as well, but it's more organized if you go to your resource group and in there you won't see like any of the other stuff. But what we want to do now is go back to our network here, virtual network, and we're going to modify the network security group. So you can think about the network security group as like a virtual firewall for the network. Go back here. So yeah, we're gonna go to our network security group. You can do that by going to your resources or just type NSG. Okay, this is the right one. All right, and you can see here we have a couple things configured. The difference between outbound and is inbound is anything coming from the public internet into the security group. Outbound is anything going from your VM out to the public internet. All right, so we have a bunch of rules here that we set when we were creating the VM. But we're gonna add a rule that essentially allows any traffic to come into our VM at any point. So what I'm gonna do is just instead of it being like all ports, specific ports, we're just gonna create a rule that allows any traffic. So source, we want any being anything from the outside coming in. Port ranges, any port, which is what the wildcard indicates. Destination, any, it's fine. Custom port range, we're going to do another wildcard. So basically, any traffic coming in, hitting any port is going to be allowed from any protocol. We're going to allow it. Priority is 100. Don't really care about that. But what we're going to do here is name it. So you can name it whatever you want. I'm just calling it allow all traffic just so it's pretty obvious what the rule does. And then I'm just putting a description here saying dangerous rule that allows all public traffic to breach NSG. And then we get a bunch of warnings here because Microsoft understands that this is a very bad thing to do. So we'll add that. All right, boom, it's created. We can see it's there. And now what we can do is go back to our VM here. And we have a public IP address. And so what we want to do, and it's been running for some time. So if you're on Mac, you just type terminal. If you're on Windows, type CMD and pop up the command prompt. And then all we're going to do, copy this public IP here. If you're on Mac, you're going to need this app right here, which you can download from the Mac App Store. If you're on Windows, you just hit start and then type remote desktop and it'll open up the application for you. I'll show you once we get into the VM, but I already have this open, so I'm just gonna go here. So we're gonna take the PC name, we can put in the IP here. Ask when I'm actually gonna just add the credentials so I don't have to like type it every time. And then boom, I've added it. Then that's pretty fine. All right, and then let's double click that. See if we can connect. That's fine. Crazy work. Apparently my account has been disabled. All right, I'm just gonna reset my password real quick here. It's resetting. All right, so reset my password. I was able to log in. I'm just gonna turn all this off. All right, so we've logged in. I'll let it load up pretty slow. So like I was saying before, if you're on Windows and you want to remote in, you just would type remote desktop, which pops up like this. And then when you open it, it's gonna look like this. So here you would just put the IP, and then when you hit connect, it's gonna ask you for credentials. So you just put the login information for your VM, and it'll log in. What we're gonna do is come here, go security, and then see here we have firewall and network protection. We just want to turn this off basically. So advanced settings. All right, boom, we've loaded it up. So we're just gonna come here, Windows Defender firewall properties. And we're just gonna turn all these off. So you can do that by O or you just tap here and select off. Then O, and that's everything. So we'll hit apply, then OK. So everything is off here. Reason why we're doing this again is to just get the most threats and attacks happening to this VM as possible, so that we can actually start seeing this happen in real time. But that's pretty much everything from the VM side. So we can actually just go ahead and close the connection, and then what we're gonna do is just test that we can actually ping the VM from like the outside world. So what we're gonna do here is open up terminal, right? And how you do that on Mac is just command space is how I'm doing it without hitting the search bar over here. And then you just type term and then boom, just hit enter or click whatever you feel comfortable with. On Windows, you can do Windows key S or just click the search bar like down here and then type CMD. And then once the command is going to be the same on both no matter what, but we're going to type ping and then paste in the IP there. And we should get a connection back. So you can see here, I can ping the VM. It is publicly available, which means people can start doing whatever various things they want to do with. What we're going to do now is pretty much just connect the logging to Microsoft Sentinel for this VM to see what is going on and generate alerts. And before we do that, what I want to do is go back to the VM, and pretty much what we can do is before we log off, we can see if attackers already started trying to do stuff by going to Event Viewer. Event Viewer is basically where all the logs in Windows are aggregated so that you can go and look for certain things that are happening. So you can see here, there's a summary of stuff we may want to look at. So what we can do to get a better view of this is go Windows Logs, Security, and then it's going to show us pretty much everything here that's happening. So you can see the most recent one here, 4625. It was a account failed to log in for bad credentials, right? So it looks like they tried to put the username as 4 and it was coming from this IP and doing this port. So you can see people are already trying to log into this VM, right? So if we just come and copy this, just to kind of analyze the IP a little bit, I really will open up Edge. And then if you guys aren't already familiar, holy crap, Microsoft, just let me browse. Okay. Yeah, what I was saying is if you guys aren't already familiar with this site, it's a very good site for quick analysis of IPs. The other really famous one is VirusTotal. These two are very good for, well, VirusTotal does more than just IPs, but this one's pretty good if you just want to quickly look at like if the IP is malicious, if it's been reported by the community, stuff like this. VirusTotal will give you a way more detailed breakdown if you actually want to like go deep into your investigation, but we'll just check what's IP. So, yep, you can see it was reported about 1,388 times. Confidence of abuse is 24%. And it's from India. So, yeah, it makes sense. Someone's trying to break into this VM already. And we've only had it up for like, what, 30, 45 minutes. So, yeah, you can see here repeated unauthorized connection attempts. That's in line with what we're seeing here. They're basically trying to log in, but they don't know the credentials. So they're just brute forcing. But we're going to be setting up Sentinel to import all these logs from Event Viewer and the VM and using the basic rule set and detection that it has, generate alerts based on what it's seeing. But we'll go ahead and close this and log out. So I'm just going to close out my remote desktop thing and then come back over here. What we're going to first do is we're going to go to Log Analytics Workspace and we're going to create a workspace because we need a way to get the log from the VM into Azure and then from Azure into Sentinel. So resource group, pick the one we've been doing everything in. So whatever you named it, I've named it Virtual SOC Lab. We're going to name it VM logs. And yeah, make sure it's in the same region that you created the VM in. So we'll go to tags, don't really need tags, review and create. It's going to do its validation thing. Validation passed, we'll hit create, so it's going to initialize. And while we're doing that, we'll go ahead and look at Sentinel. So that actually finished up faster than I thought it would. But we're just going to go over to Microsoft Sentinel, and you can see we have nothing that's created here. So we'll just hit create. What this is going to do is create us a new instance of Microsoft Sentinel. We're most likely going to have to sign up for the free trial, so 31-day free trial. So what this means is you'll have 31 free days of unlimited log ingestion, and then after that, they will charge for volume of logs ingested into Sentinel. So just be aware of that. I am planning to add this to my community as like a thing that people get access to, and then I'll just create them a user and they'll be able to like go into the sim and analyze stuff. But I want to add a few things to it to make it more enterprise grade so that you guys are getting the best experience possible. But as you can see, this is the log analysis thing we created. So we'll just add this. All right, it's going to do its thing. We're going to wait for it to finish. All right, so we've got our Sentinel instance set up. You can see it's going to give you information about your free trial. So we have 10 gigabytes a day of logs. I don't believe we'll be hitting that, but if you do pass that, it will start charging you. So just be mindful. That's why we're shutting everything down when we're not using it to make sure we're not being charged. If you're on free tier, you don't really have to worry about shutting it down, although Sentinel is not included in the free tier. So like just be wary of that. Just to recap, we've set up our resource group, our network security group, our VM, opened up our VM to the public internet. We've set up our Sentinel instance, and now we want to connect the logs from the VM to Sentinel. So how we're going to do that is, if you're not already, just go to Sentinel, click on the log analytics workspace here that's going into Sentinel. And we're gonna go to data connectors in the configuration. You're gonna see a bunch here. The one you're gonna want to do is this one right here. So just search security event. Then you're gonna select this one via AMA, which is Azure Monitoring Agent, which is automatically installed on VMs when you boot them up nowadays. Here it'll show you like the log amount of export. So you have 18,000 events already exported for me. That will be 0 for you, obviously. For you, it's gonna say install. And if this doesn't show up here, then you're gonna want to go to Content Hub. And it's gonna make you open Defender. So you just click this. Once you open Defender, you're basically gonna come down here to what does Microsoft Sentinel. Go to Content Management, go to Content Hub, then wait for it to load up. And then here you would just type security event. And then yeah, so I installed this one, which is just regular Windows security events. And it's going to come with AMA and legacy, which is what we need. So you would just do this, scroll down, hit install. It's going to set up like a connector and stuff automatically, I believe. And then once we do that, we'll go back over here. We need to set up a data collection rule now, right? We're gonna go type data collection rules. And you can see I have 2 here, but you'll have 0. So you can see I have 2 rules here, because I'm cool like that. But you'll have 0, so just hit create. And then once you hit create, it's gonna walk you through the whole process pretty much. So you name it here. I would name it something actually guided, so like, DCR, VM, logs, like that. Resource group, choose the SOC lab resource group. Make sure it's in the same region. We're doing Windows, data collection endpoint. We'll do none for now. Resources, we'll add the resource. It's going to be basically the VM. So it's automatically going to populate. We'll just choose our VM here, hit apply. It's going to show up. Next collect. So the data source is going to be Windows event logs here. Then we want it to go there, and we want it to go to our analytic workspace, and then you just hit add data. Add data collection rule. I'm not going to do it because like I already have my rules here. But when it's all said and done, it'll look something like this. And let's go back to Sentinel to make sure everything is flowing correctly, go to data connectors, and then you want to see this one here. And if it's not like green, it means it's not connected. And then here you would just, it might say like create rule or something like that. You would click on, so yeah, you would just click on it like here. It'll bring you to this page. And then you could just hit create data collection rule. And what this is going to do is going to be the same thing we just went through, but it's going to allow you to collect these rules. But yeah, so this is going to be the way to do it. Once that's all set up, you're going to have to give it like, it might start instantly, but sometimes it can take a bit between 10, 20, 30 minutes for logs to start flowing in. You can verify when the logs are there, when you see a number here, or you could just come over to Defender and then you'll just go to investigation response, hunting, advanced hunting. It'll open up this and then you can just type security event here, run the query, and then you'll get an error because I probably spelled this wrong. So, yeah. Yep. So don't be like me, spell things correctly the first time. Yeah, so this is gonna populate with the security events that we've been seeing through the Windows events manager in the VM when we connect to it. And you can see here we're getting pretty much brute forced for login. All of these are pretty much failed logins. And if you open them one up, so let me change the time frame here to the last hour so it runs faster. So we actually had a spike at 12:42 p.m. and then it's gone back down to like regular. Interesting. But so we'll open up one of these just so you can see like the information in it. And we get a whole bunch of information that we like don't like, some of it's important, some of it's not. And it just comes with experience, what you want to be looking for. But how we can actually make this query better so it's easy for us to oh, you could see the IP here as well. In Azure has like automatic IP enrichment. So if you just click on the IP address, it'll give you information on it. So we can see like this is the ISP, the ASN, the state where it's at, the country, the city, latitude, longitude, and the carrier. So this is gonna don't worry about like, so like this right here. I'm gonna show you guys how to do that in a second because that's the last part of the lab. But I wanted to go through KQL a little bit. So KQL is basically the query language for Microsoft's products. What we're doing here is getting a table. You can think of it like a Excel sheet, right? So like, you got your column names here, and then you got your rows with the information filling in. So what we're going to do is focus down on information that actually makes sense for the investigation. And we're going to be creating an alert, a detection rule, as called Defender, like you can see over here, based on this query. And so what we want to detect is basically failed logins and send a low priority alert to our alerts dashboard, right? So let's go about doing that. It's pretty straightforward. So one thing we want to focus on is, since this alert is specifically for failed logins, we are going to specify this event ID, right? And remember back when I was showing you an event viewer, I told you this event ID is for failed login. We can verify that right here. So you can see event ID is 4625 and the activity is account failed to log on, right? So we want to focus down on just those events. Right now, we only have those events. So it's like not really much else going on. And then what we want to do is project. So what the project keyword is going to do is basically data, display only the specified data in this keyword, right? So let's see, what would we want to see, right? We want to see the time generated, so like the time that the attempt was made. We want to see the account. So this would be like the username they tried, which you can see down here, administrator NDS, blah, a bunch of stuff. Then we want to see the computer. So if you have like multiple in an enterprise scenario, you're gonna have every employee is gonna have their computer, right? So this would be unique. depending on how many failed logins and how much brute forcing is going on in the environment. So ideally, you'd want to see like what computer this is happening on. But for right now in the lab, we only have one VM instance, but this is just an important thing we want to be looking at. Next, well, we don't really need the event ID because we know it's always going to be 4625 because of this line right here. We want to see, it's just good to have the activity in there, really. Then we want the IP address. And let's see, if there's anything else in here we really care about? Not really. So now when we run this, you'll see what happens. So boom, now we're getting only the fields we just specified. And this is a lot easier to look at than like the other one. And let's just like open one up here. And you can see it's a lot easier to just quickly glance at. It's like, okay, this logon was attempted with the username administrator. It failed to log on from this IP address. If we click that, it's going to open that thing, but I don't really want to do that. So we'll just click it down here. Okay, we want to investigate the IP a little bit. Okay, it's from India. So yeah, it's most likely not an authorized user trying to log into this computer. And then that's good, right? So here's my query that I was playing around with because I wanted to like add geolocation automatically in the alert without having to click. So this is what I came up with. And you can see here it does give us the country, latitude, and longitude. And all we're doing that is using this function right here, geo info from IP address. What this does is it takes the IP address and returns a list of values, right? And we can see that in this right here in the Microsoft documents. It will take an IP address, so like a string IP address, IPv4 or IPv6 as well, and it will return these values. So we get the country, state, city, longitude, latitude. And then in order to tap into those values, we would just do what I'm doing here, so we used extend, made geo a variable that stores that list that's returned from each IP. And then in the project command to display it, we just use that variable dot the value, the key value we want to display, right? So if we go back to the page, we can see we have these to choose from. So that's why that appears in the command, right? So how do we make this an alert and how do we make sure that Defender and Sentinel start alerting us when they see these? Well, it's pretty simple. So I'm just going to leave that over there, but show you how it's going to look like. So every time we get an incident, it will turn into an alert. And you can see I have 3 already generated just because this has been running for a bit. And it'll also, I think it only generates per unique IP. Yeah, because like these 3 are all different IPs. So it's going to be smart and not just spam you with alerts and incidents. But how do we actually go about doing this, right? So all we're going to do is when we're right here, we're just going to hit where's the button. I think it's because it's all already a rule. So let me go into like a new tab. So yeah, so this is another query I was playing around with, but you have a button here like this create detection rule, right? So we'll click that. It's not gonna be nice to us. But so let me just copy this real quick. I'm gonna save this. And then we will clear that all out. And it's gonna do that. So all right, create detection rule. We're gonna get this really cool dashboard. It's gonna walk us through the whole thing. So the detection, you can name it whatever you want, but I like to just keep it simple. Detects failed logon events. Our query is gonna be here already. We can select the frequency you want this to run. So I just have it at every hour. You can do custom. You can put it 12 hours, whatever you want. The longer time frame you put it, the less amount of volume you're gonna have. Severity, I chose low because like if it's a failed attempted login, realistically, there's not much you can do to stop that besides blocking that kind of traffic from the firewall. But in this, for the lab's purpose, we want these events to be coming in. So low because it doesn't really matter. Now, if this was detecting successful logons, that would be a high, right? Or a critical, whatever you want to call it, because then someone successfully logged in, brute forced the login credentials, and they're now in the machine. So we'll leave it on low for now. Category is gonna be yeah, you can do either bunch of these. I'm just gonna do sorry, suspicious activity. Recommended actions you could put in there, but we don't really need that right now. So the alert titles, this is gonna be the title that's generated. For me, you can see that's what I titled mine. So we could just like copy the name we just did. Description, so we'll just put failed logon attempt detected from IP address with username. So I don't actually know if these like keywords are gonna work, but we'll see. Got some details don't really. That entity mapping, impacted assets. It's gonna be an Azure resource. It's gonna be computer, and then yeah, we don't need a second one. Then we'll hit next. Then automated actions, but I'm missing permissions, so we can do that later. Next. All right, so this is gonna be like the review section before you submit it. So you can just check everything's good. I'm not gonna submit this just because I already have one. But you'll hit submit. It's gonna do its thing. It's gonna create, and then honestly, if you're already having logs coming in, you should have one generate, at least one alert because it runs every hour. And then you'll have something like this. And so you come in here, you see like it's not assigned to anyone. It's fine. Suspicious activity. It's a custom detection role we just made. And this is the IP. So what we can do is like open alert page, just to like work an alert essentially. Let's go ahead and work this alert as a security analyst would. This is going to be your first experience into being a security analyst. So let's just say, you're at your job, you get this alert pop in the queue. First thing you're going to do is change this to in progress and assign it to yourself. So assign to me and save. All right, so now what this does is basically lets anyone else that's looking at the same pane of glass, as they call it in the industry, know that this alert's in progress being worked by someone, right? Because if you don't do this, you might have like double ups where two people are working the same alert and now you're just wasting time. So what we want to do now is like look at the alert details. So you can see evidence here. We have an IP. The incident is here. So what we can do is actually just go to the incident. The incident's going to give us, or scratch that. We'll just stay on this page. So what we can do is see the query results, and we can see from this IP right here, we're seeing a lot of failed logins from just like random accounts. So to me, this looks like brute forcing because if you look at the time, it's basically not humanly possible to be failing logging in this quickly every time. So what we want to do is like, okay, we suspect this is already malicious. We want to look at the IP. So it's from India, from this city. And all right, so now what we want to do is see if this IP has been reported as malicious. And how I do that is go to Abuse IP DB. Really good website for just quickly checking the reputation of an IP address. And if you want more detailed, so this IP actually, okay, yeah, it was. So if you want more detailed information on the IP, you would go to virus total, and that's going to give you like a whole thing. And you can see like with what we saw in the thing, it matches up. And it's saying this IP has been reported 1,389 times, right? So this is now no longer potentially a false positive. It's now confirmed malicious activity just due to the fact that like we're a US in this scenario, you're a US based company and an Indian IP address is trying to log in and they're trying to log in literally twice every second, pretty much. So that's just not humanly possible, right? It's most likely a script, just like found this IP on the internet and now they're trying to brute force it. So now that we have all this information, what we want to do is go back here and hit resolved. Classification is going to be true, positive, malicious user activity. Now in the comment section, you want to put the evidence as to why you're classifying as a true positive, right? So you just know everything you did in your investigation, right? So IP origin is in India. Abuse IPDP reports 1389. All right, so basically I just put in the facts, right? So first thing we did was like look at the logs. Okay. We can actually just make this better by doing this. Refers to activity from with IP with origin in India. Abuse IP has 1389 reports on the IP with 25% confidence of malicious activity. No user employees are based in India, right? So this is enough for someone to like, you know, SOC manager or whoever runs reports for like, the CISO or director to like see how the security analysts are doing with alerts and notice trends and focus on the big picture stuff. This is enough to like, if there was for some reason a reason to question this conclusion, the comments would help aid in like that backup to this decision, right? That's what the comment section is for. It's mainly for you to just basically cover your own butt. If someone says, why did you mark this as a true positive? You just say, pull up the comments and you're like, this is why, right? In my investigation, I discovered this, and this, which allows me to believe and conclude that this was a malicious activity. And you just hit save. Boom, alerts updated. And now it should be, yeah, off of here just because we're only looking at new and in progress. And there you go, guys. That is a full security operations center lab in Azure. And you've now worked one alert and created a KQL custom detection rule to detect failed logins from your VM. Um, I know you probably came into this video with absolutely no idea what the hell I was talking about, and now you have literal security analyst experience that you can put on your resume. And yeah, if you guys are new here, I'm gonna be posting videos like this now every week, at least one. And what I want to do is continue building out this SOC to be something like more more robust, right? More detection rules, maybe a visualization, stuff like this. It's all going to come in future videos. Kind of getting the SOC up to where like an enterprise grade SOC would have, or like a small or medium business should have. A lot of them don't really do this. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And this was really interesting project. I learned a lot building this out, especially with like configuring the data connectors and the logs, getting the logs from the VM to the Sentinel. I had to do a lot of research on that just because like it wasn't really clear how you would do it. So yeah, that was a fun experiment. And then yeah, that KQL query didn't take me too long, but I did have to like research a few stuff like, the geo info from IP address thing. Because I was like, all right, they're like, because I was at first trying to do a Puce IPDP. You can install like a playbook and use an API from them to like enrich IP information. And so I was trying that at first, but I was like, there's got to be like an easy way to do this. And then I found this. So we left it how we had it there. And yeah, guys, so I'll see you in the next one. Peace.